February 16, 2017 will go down as one of the most exciting moments in Liberty University history. The Flames Athletics Department received word from the NCAA that its waiver to begin the reclassification as an FBS independent was approved. Beginning with the 2017-18 academic year, Liberty football will start the two-year FBS reclassification process. The waiver allows Liberty football to move to the FBS without an invitation from a current FBS football-sponsored conference. President Jerry Falwell Jr., Athletics Director Ian McCall, and head football coach Turner Gill addressed the media after the big announcement.
We were in the middle of meetings today and weren't expecting the news today, but we found out about 2 p.m. that the NCAA had granted Liberty's waiver to move in football to FBS status as an independent. We've been working with Ropes and Gray, Dennis Coleman. It's a Boston law firm. He's been helping us with the process for about a year. And we, I guess it's been that long, maybe not quite that long, but we, Ian and David Corey, Randy Smith and I went to Nashville just before the inauguration in January and did a presentation for the NCAA staff and several of their committees and answered all their questions. We talked about, I see some of the old timers here today, we talked about how Liberty started in rented public school buildings and had a Treasure Island youth camp where we had dorms and we had an old hotel downtown and we had students riding back and forth on buses that were so worn out they broke down constantly, and when they got to the bridge over the James River they had to stop and let the students walk across because the bridge wouldn't hold a bus full of students. And that we, even before we had a campus, we had football, baseball, all the major team sports, and that shows how committed we were from the very beginning to taking Liberty to the top levels of the NCAA and to this day today. This day is 45 years, and this is a culmination of 45 years of effort and of prayer and of hard work, and we just could not be more thrilled. It's a historic day for Liberty. I was so excited. Our lawyer in Boston, when he called, he was so excited that he started crying on the phone. He's a 60-some-year-old attorney. He said this, in 40 years of practice in law, he's never been more excited than he was today. And so he asked me, he said, do you remember what I told you a year ago? I said, yeah, you promised me that you would get us here, and you actually kissed me on both cheeks. He said, yep, and when I got home, I told my wife about it, and she said, he's going to think you're crazy. But he wasn't crazy. We made it, and we want to express special gratitude to the NCAA for giving us the opportunity to meet with them on several occasions and to make our case, and for understanding the uniqueness of Liberty's situation and our uniqueness as an institution, and why we, like Notre Dame, Brigham Young, Penn State, University of Miami, why it made sense for us to go to FBS as an independent. Before 2011, there was no rule that prevented that, but it was just since 2011 that a conference invitation's been required. So this is the first time a waiver's been requested, and of course it's the first one granted, but we probably do better to answer questions. I'll let Ian make a statement, but congratulations to Ian and Coach Gill, and now you guys have got the monkey on your back. I've done my part, but I think a little bit about the euphemism. I feel a little bit like the dog that caught the bus. So we're excited, and we're thrilled to see what happens in the future, and we intend to. The other thing our attorneys and I both agreed on is that we intend to use this new status for God's glory in everything we do. So we are very grateful to God and for all the efforts of all of you guys. Ian?
Thanks. Well, as President Falwell said, what a tremendous blessing today is, and we're just truly, truly grateful to have the opportunity to reclassify from FCS to FBS. It'll be a process that takes place over 2 years, And so this coming season in 2017, we'll continue to play FCS football. In 2018, we'll move to be a transitional FBS member, and then in 2019, we'll be a full-fledged member of FBS and be eligible to play in bowl games. So very exciting for our football program, and very exciting for our entire athletic department. Of course, the entire university will benefit from this. This will be a situation where all boats rise as a result of this great accomplishment, and it's very gratifying that we're able to fulfill Dr. Falwell's original vision, which is to play at the very highest level. President Falwell has been an incredible leader through this process and has really spearheaded the move from FCS to FBS, and just grateful to be a very small part of it, along with the other members of the athletic department staff. So we're very excited about it, very honored, and we're going to work extremely hard to make sure that this is a successful transition and one that, again, glorifies God in all that we do. And with that, I'll bring up Coach Gill, and then we'll answer some questions.
Well, I got a big smile on my face. It's a dream come true, and to God be the glory. We do have to honor him in everything we do and everything we say. It's a blessing for me to be a part of this, and I know that the late Dr. Jerry Falwell, his spirit is right here. I feel it, I sense it, and I know it. And I want to say thank you. Again, the vision has come to fruition, obviously with his son here, Jerry Falwell Jr., and everybody involved. Everybody here at this university has had a part of it. Actually, all the people before us have been a big part of it. Those that were here in 1971, 72, so on and so forth. All the people that have put forth all the effort, the blood, the sweat, the tears, and all the things that have taken place over the last 40-plus odd years. I don't want to forget that. So I want to make sure I mention that I want to say thank you to all the people who have come before us, and those that are here today, and also just in the special things to the people who are going to be here in the future. It's going to take every single one of us continue to take this vision that the late Dr. Jerry Falwell has put in place here. And so we're obligated to make sure that we put this into fruition for the every day of our lives. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity. Again, it's going to be a tough opportunity for me, but again, it's a blessing. We have Jesus Christ on our side, so all the other things, that really doesn't matter. So I'm thankful for this opportunity. May God continue to bless this university.
We'll just go ahead and take questions and turn it over to you guys. Yes.
When you applied for the waiver, was that the case to not have an FBS conference offer invitation? Have the ability to move up as an independent if you didn't have a conference offer?
Well, we recognized, I guess it was last year, that the realignment, excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold. The realignment of a few years ago had pretty much stopped. And when I believe it was the Big 12, decided not to add 2 additional teams, that's when we decided that the realignment was not going to occur again for the foreseeable future. And so that's when we requested the waiver from the NCAA.
And the second part, now moving up to FBS independent, how will that affect the status of the other sports here?
I had just got off the phone a little while ago with Kyle Calander, the Big South. I told him that our intention was to remain in the Big South in all sports for this upcoming year, for the 17-18 year, and to the following year, our intention was for football to become FBS transitional, and for the other sports to remain in the Big South for the foreseeable future. And there's a special process. The presidents of the Big South have to vote because they have a bylaw that requires you to participate. If any sport that they sponsor, you have to participate in that sport if you're a member of the Big South. So it will require a waiver of the presidents of the Big South, but we intend to start that process right away and to seek that waiver and to remain members of the Big South for the foreseeable future in all other sports, and to continue to seek a conference for the football program. Yes. No. continue to seek opportunities to join conferences in football as we go forward. But it's like I said, we don't see realignment on the horizon anytime soon, and we think all the conferences are pretty well set with the membership that they want. And the TV contracts are not what they used to be, so I don't see a lot of opportunities there in the near future.
What are the challenges going to be associated with scheduling 5 FBS home games a year and getting those schools to come here, plus also filling out the FBS schedule as an independent?
So we've already gotten some text messages about scheduling, and we're getting to work on that right away. So what we'll be doing in 2018, we need to have 3 FBS home games, and in 2019 we need to have a minimum of 5 FBS home games. So Mickey Garuti and I will be working phones here beginning right away, and that's certainly going to be something that will be a significant effort for us.
What was the presentation to the NCAA like? What did you pinpoint to highlight what Liberty University can offer as an FBS and also, as was stated in the press release, be able to meet those qualifications?
Well, my presentation focused more on how Liberty had planned to go independent all along, but it was just the 2011 conference invitation rule that thwarted those plans a few years ago, and that we, like I said, that we had, just like we did when we moved to Division I in 1988, we went as an independent, and our plan was to do that again, just like Notre Dame did, and just like Brigham Young did. It's tougher for a private religious school to get an invitation to a conference than it is for a public university. So that was like I said, that was our plan, and then this conference invitation rule came into the picture, and it. But our presentation was how Liberty had come so far. I showed the somewhere I got it here. I showed the group at the NCAA this letter from the president of Notre Dame, and it was sent. Hold it up so everybody can see it. In 2012, and it talked about how it was from Father Theodore Hesburgh, and he wrote in 2012. He had read about Liberty Athletics in the New York Times, about the rise of Liberty Athletics, and he talked about how it reminded him so much of when Notre Dame went to play West Point. I guess it was back in the 50s or 60s, because he was in his 90s when he sent this letter, and they beat the number 1 team in the country with 16 players, and how it launched Notre Dame into the big time. And he says in this letter that he sees Liberty on that same trajectory now, and that meant a lot because we had always talked about our vision to be for evangelicals what Notre Dame is for Catholics, and it just coming from somebody who was probably the most politically active college president. Maybe my dad was second, or I don't know. They were probably 1 and 2 for years. To see that coming from somebody who had so much in common with us meant a lot. And so I showed that to the group, and then just talked about how we had become a pioneer in distance learning, and how we had, in 10 years, had spent about $1 billion on campus and built reserves up for the future, and had the facilities and the ability to play teams. There's so many FBS teams within 2 or 3 hours of Lynchburg: Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Old Dominion, Appalachian State. There's so many that have fans in this area that we could, when we play them at home, those fans will be here along with our own fans, and how the stadium will go from probably 20,000 to 40,000 overnight. And then I turned it over to Ian, and I don't remember what you said.
We spoke, and David Corey's here as well. He did a great job also. Really just talked about the fact that Liberty is FBS ready. If you look at our facilities, you look at the beauty of our campus, the infrastructure that's put in place, this is an FBS ready program. And I think we were able to make a very compelling case that we're ready to make this move. We all of the FBS criteria we already meet or exceed, scholarship, sports sponsorship, attendance levels, and so forth. And really all we need is the green light from the NCAA, and we'll be a very successful FBS program. And certainly you look at BYU and UMass and others that have operated as FBS independents. It's a pathway that we can go down and we can excel in.
Coach Gill, what will this do for recruiting? Some of the critics of Liberty always talk about the football team struggling to get skilled blue chippers and the big 368 linemen. Will this have any significance to recruiting?
Yes, the exposure, the national exposure, even just starting today, I can see that we'll be able to get into some home as we have really talked to many people in these last 5 years I've been here. Have talked to some people who have been gone to FBS schools. Why you didn't choose Liberty University? They're Christians and all that, and said because you don't play at the top level. And so now we can squash that. Now we're going to play at the top level, and so we'll be able to get into homes, and we'll be able to get our share of top-rated players across the country, both academically and athletically, because of being playing at the top level.
With the move, what kind of plans are in place for expansion of the stadium?
Well, we were waiting until we got this decision before we made that decision, but we've got plans in place to go ahead and add the next phase, which is an additional 6,000 seats on the upper deck over across the way. But I think we're going to have to add additional seating, probably simultaneously, to take us up probably to 35,000 or so, and hopefully we'll be able to do it between seasons like we did this football tower between 2009 and 2010. And but we got very good feedback from all the staff and all the committees that were there at the meeting in Nashville. I talked both of my boys into going along. They were switching the slides and handing out materials to the group there, and so it was a special day for us, and we just appreciate all the hard work of David, Corey, and Ian, and the Ropes and Greg people up in Boston, and it was really a team effort. And Turner, of course.
Dr. Falwell, when you were talking, your voice seemed to crack. Was that emotion, or was that your cold? And what would your father say today?
Oh, I think he'd be jumping up and down, just like that lawyer on the phone. He's you wouldn't believe it. He went from being a lawyer, a big city lawyer, to he sounded like a Baptist preacher. He started saying we're going to use this for God's glory, and he was crying. This was the attorney in Boston. He represents a lot of the top NFL coaches. He's African American. I guess he's in his 60s. I'm not sure, but he just fell in love with Liberty over the last year. And I think Dad would have sounded a lot like him on the phone this afternoon. By the second time we talked to him, his voice was hoarse, and I think mine was a combination of a cold and just excitement, and it's it's just it still hasn't sunk in yet. I got a text last night from the NCAA saying we would probably get good news by the end of the week, but I didn't think the news would come today, and I didn't think it'd be public today, and so it caught us by surprise. So Todd Wetmore did a good job, and Ian, of writing up the press release quickly, and we thank you guys for coming over here as quickly as you did. Yes. Oh, and this was the first Liberty football game. This was, but they had me. It was 1973 or 4. Well, it had to be 3 if it was the first game, and it was at City Stadium, and it just. I talked about this when I presented to the NCAA. That was proof that we were so committed to football that there we were at a football game in 1973 before we even had a campus. So that was the reason. That was the point I was trying to illustrate with that picture. But go ahead. Somebody had a question. Yeah.
Well, you've been here for a couple months. Tell me, this is about your first meeting. What is it like? Are you excited about it? Is it something that the first we're going to get about
Well, it's the first move. It's the biggest move, quite honestly. This is a monumental day in terms of what this will do for the football program, but really the entire athletic program, the entire institution. So we're very excited about it, but now comes the hard work, as we talked about, building the schedules, putting the infrastructure in place, and making sure we can make this transition successfully. So I just feel very energized, very blessed, and looking forward to continuing to move things in a positive direction. Well, our big moves moving forward will be putting together a 2018 football schedule and a 2019 football schedule. That's really going to take a lot of work because obviously getting those games, particularly in October, November, is very challenging. So again, that's going to be a big effort here in the coming weeks and months. I don't think I will right now, but we'll be on the phone with them immediately. So we have a scheduling model we put in place in the event that this we receive some good news. So we know the schools that we're going to target. And again, as President Falwell said, we're really blessed. I believe we have 14 FBS programs within a 3-hour radius of Lynchburg. So that really helps us in terms of kind of being a foundation. And then we'll also target some of the other FBS independent schools for games because they need those games in October, November as well. So we'll get to work on that in earnest here right away.
Does that also mean the ACC might be targeted because of the proximity that you target more ACC schools? Because that's just like Notre Dame used to do with the Big Ten, now does with the ACC, try to target schools in the geographic area.
Those games certainly make some sense. Yeah, obviously, we're transitioning up, so I think we want to gradually build the schedule from a competitive standpoint. I believe we do have Virginia Tech in the schedule for 2020, so we already do have one ACC opponent on the schedule. But again, we're going to do this in a wise manner and a manner that's conducive to us making this transition successfully. I think that's right. Yes. That's correct. Yep.
Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you for coming out, and it's just like I said before, we couldn't be more thrilled and excited and thankful to God.
Yep. Yep.